Welcome back, y'all. Or if you're new, welcome to the shit show.
Who you a fool for this? Who you a fool for this? I walk like I talk like I act like I look like I think like my shit don't stink. I fuck like I suck like I ride like I taste like I look like my shit don't stink. I walk like I talk like I act.
Sup everyone, this is Kenzie from the present. This video was filmed when I was I think 5 weeks out in my prep, so I look very much different. So if you're one of the trolls that want to be like, oh my god, she got so fat, no shit, I'm like 30 pounds heavier now than I am in this video, okay? That's all I want to say. Here's the video, bye! I'm finally sitting down today and talking about how I got into bodybuilding, how I started, my tips if you want to start, how to know if you're ready, everything you want to know about competing, and if you're ready to compete, how I started competing, it's going to be all in this video, okay? So we're just going to start with my story, how I got into it, and just how this came to be. If you've been following my journey, you know that I started working out at the very beginning of 2017, kind of around New Year's resolution time. I was overweight my entire life. That's when my fitness journey kind of started. So that was in 2017. I was in my freshman year of college. I lived in LA. So I started kind of just working out. I didn't really know what the fuck I was doing. I would go on Pinterest, find workouts, right? I didn't want to, this is the time when I was like, I just want to be toned. I just want to be toned. I just want to tone up a little bit. So I was eating healthy, or whatever the fuck I thought healthy was. To me, if it was vegan and processed, that was healthy. So I was just eating a bunch of shit, to be honest. I didn't really figure out what a calorie deficit was until the end of 2018. So I kind of just played around my first year. But during that time in college, one of my best friends, Morgan, I know she's watching this, she lives in Houston, but we went to school together, and she had just started dating her now boyfriend, and he's a bodybuilder. So she was super into Gymshark 2017. If you know the era, you know what I'm talking about. And so she was my fitness friend. I remember the first time that we ever met, I was pre-gaming at her house because her roommate, we were going out together, and we shared a Lenny and Larry's cookie together. She's the one that told me about ab exercises because I was telling her what I was doing, and she's like, don't do anything super weighted on your obliques because you don't want them to grow and get a lot thicker. But that's kind of she was my introduction to the world, but I literally told her, because she would watch, it's hilarious, she would watch prep vlogs for motivation. She would be on the Stairmaster just to get her shit done. The way that you guys are, I'll get messages from you guys that say, oh, I'm not a bodybuilder, I don't want to bodybuild, but I just watch your shit because it helps me get my stuff done. That was her, right? Because she was watching Shiva Sheaves, she was obsessed with her prep vlogs. I literally told this girl, why would anyone ever want to look like that? I'll never compete. That's gross. That was literally me. Embarrassing. So if you're ew, I'll never do that, just never say never, okay? So she was definitely a big part of my journey because I had a close friend that was into fitness, and so she was also supporting my goals. But at this time, I was still just learning how to lift. In college, it was just a lot of me being on Instagram, YouTube, trial and error, and learning. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing, but I learned, and that's how I did it. It wasn't until, I'd say, end of my junior, senior year of college that I got an interest in bodybuilding, but not because I wanted to do it. It was the same sense of, I look to these people for inspiration, because to me it was if y'all can get all this shit done in your day, I can get done what I gotta get done, right? I'll never forget standing up in college. I went to an art school, so of course it's some art professor that's randomly calls on you as what's inspiring you today? And I stood up and I said bodybuilders, and keep in mind, I go to a fashion school, so everyone's oh my god, and he was bodybuilders. He was I love that. He's that's so different. No one else in this room would say that. He's I love that. And I told him, I said, if they can get all that done, I can get what I gotta get done. So it was definitely then that I got into it more. I started following Paige Riley's prep vlogs. That's when I found Kerrigan, my coach. When you guys ask how I found my coach, I had followed her as an influencer bodybuilder for years before I ever inquired with her, right? So I watched her prep vlogs, and that's when I was really into fitness. That was my honeymoon fitness stage. My junior, senior year of college is when I was I hate rest days. I just want to be in the gym all the time. A lot of you guys that message me right now, stuff like that, you remind me of me in college, because I will never forget just sitting in my bed on a rest day fuck, I want to go to the gym. What is this? I was so in love with it. And then, so my senior year, I was a 2020 grad, 2020 COVID grad, y'all. So my senior year, let's think about how this starts. It's giving sirens. So my senior year of college, it would have been the third week of March is when they told us all it's gonna be a 2-week quarantine, and I was okay, I don't want to live with my roommate, so I ended up going back home. But during that time, I was watching a lot of bodybuilders. I was just working out a lot at home because that's what the fuck else was I gonna do. I was graduated, unemployed, like that's just what I was doing. And I followed Ashlyn Little. She's a bikini pro. I watched this girl prep for weeks on end in her hot ass Arizona gym. And there was just nothing more motivating because this girl literally competed like 7 times that season. And like, I remember when she, like her pro show, when she got first call-outs, I like cried. I was like, oh, like I felt so attached to her. She is truly like one of my biggest inspirations. I'm gonna say her, Kerrigan, and Paige Riley were like my girls. Like I just wanted to be them. I just thought they were so fucking dope. But at this time still, it was kind of like in the back of my head, like maybe you could do that someday. Like as in like maybe you can have the discipline someday to do that. I knew it wasn't my time. And during COVID as well, one of my good friends started working with Kerrigan's husband just as a lifestyle client. And she loved it, like absolutely loved it. And I knew that I wanted to work with them when I moved to Chicago. So that summer I knew I was gonna move to Chicago and I was so like, antsy to work with them. But basically throughout college, I struggled with binging a lot just because I was smoking all the time and I was constantly in a deficit. So when I was when COVID happened, I told myself, you are not counting calories. You are not even trying to be in a deficit. Like you just need to be at maintenance. And I just like accepted that I was gonna be thick and that's what it was gonna be. But I was still training. And honestly, like for me, that's what fixed it. It was just the fact that I just wasn't in a deficit. Or like, cause what I would do is like, I'd be in a deficit and then I'd binge on the weekends and then the cycle would continue, right? But COVID is kind of when I got control over that, if I'm gonna be honest. Actually, I'm really just realizing that all now, if I'm being real here. But I knew like I was like, I'm not working with a coach until I'm ready and committed to be able to do a cut, right? So then when I moved to Chicago, I put myself through my own cut. And then at the end of December, I took the Christmas money my parents gave me and I hired Kerrigan. And I don't even know. However, no, I do remember I told myself that fall when I put myself through a cut, I said, the second that it's no longer I might want to do this and it's fuck yeah, I want to win, let's do this shit, then you can inquire with a coach. So once I got that burning, it's a fuck yeah, it's a fuck no, that's when I reached out to Kerrigan and that's when I knew. But at that point, I knew how to lift. Like you didn't have to teach me how to train. Like at that point I knew how to train a failure. I don't really think I knew what true failure was at that point, but I knew how to track my macros. So when I went to Kerrigan, like I had already kind of been through that trial and error, but you don't have to, if that makes sense. I get messages from girls all the time that are like, how do you know if you're ready to reach out to a coach? And I always say, if you're asking me this question, get a coach. Because what most people do is they're afraid, they like think that you have to look like a bodybuilder to reach out to a bodybuilding coach, which is not the case at all. Like a coach is gonna be happy that you want to reach out to a coach in an off season. They're gonna look at you as a better athlete because like, okay, they're serious about this shit. They're not just trying to get on stage. Because everyone and their mother just wants to put on the sparkly suit to say they did it. But if you are willing to put in the time to grow, a coach is gonna respect the hell out of that. So the second if you can afford a coach, get one. I don't even care if you're not competing. Like the only regret I had when I started working with Kerrigan was not budgeting to just work with her earlier. Like I could have made it work and that's honestly my only regret is just not doing it sooner. But don't feel like you have to look a certain way when you approach a coach, if that makes sense. Okay, actually let's backtrack more about me again. And I'm gonna insert photos of what I looked like throughout my journey with Kerrigan. So we started working together January 4th of 2021. We started a cut and from January up until beginning of May, we did a cut, right? And then from May up until September, we reverse dieted, which basically means, so when you end a cut, let's say you end on 1,200 calories, right? You don't want to just jump back up to 2,000 because your body's going to just gain weight back, right? You want to slowly increase your food and slowly taper back cardio. So that's what that is. When you reverse, you can reverse just up to maintenance or you can push it into a little bit of a surplus, which is what we did. So from May up until September, I reverse dieted. We put myself in a surplus. I was uncomfortable. I was fluffy. And yeah, I wasn't comfortable, but genuinely looking back, that summer is where I've made the most progress I've made in probably the past 5 years, like genuinely. So from September until the end of October, I guess, we did a mini cut because basically I was bitching at her in every check and I was like, I feel so fluffy. And she's like, if it'll make you feel better, like we have the time. So we did it. And then on November 3rd, my best friend decided to randomly die out of fucking nowhere. This Thursday will be a year since she died, which is absolutely fucking crazy. And it's crazy that I can sit here and talk about this like after the fact. It's been a wild fucking year. So she died November 3rd. And so what did I do? Smoked everything in sight, ate everything in sight, gained like 25 pounds in a month. Everything that I did in that cut was gone donezo, right? Just depression vibes all that winter. In February, I just woke up and I think it was on my birthday when I realized I had to get it together, because I put on my close story, like I was just like sobbing in my bed on her birthday. And her sister had texted me and was like, bitch, get your ass out of bed. She would want you shaking your ass to Megan right now. Why are you crying? And that's when I realized she would not want this for me. She would not want me depressed in my bed all day long. There's no one on this earth who knew how badly I wanted to get on stage more than her. When we lived together here, she was in school and I worked from home. She would watch me walk up and down our apartment hallway to get my steps in every night. Like no one knew like she did, right? And so I just woke up and I was like, you know what, Kenzie? You have to live the life that she doesn't get to fucking live now. You're prepping for this bitch. Like, let's go. So then, because Kerrigan told me, she's like, take your time. Like, seriously, like, don't feel rushed at all. She was great about it. And in February, I was like, okay, let's get back to this shit. And so it was what it was. We had to start another cut, because when you start a prep, you don't want to have to lose 40, 50 pounds. You're not trying to have to do that, right? So you want to start at a leaner body composition. So from end of February to May again, the same time next year, I did a cut. That was the leanest I'd ever gotten. And then we brought my food back up this summer. So June, July, and then last week of July is when we started this prep. So I've been prepping to prep. By the time I get on stage, it's gonna be like 2 years. So, because when I went to Kerrigan, I told her, I said, I don't care how long it takes, I just wanna be on track to getting on stage. Because I didn't want to be one of those people that's like, prep me, prep me, prep me. Like, I knew that if I was going to do this shit, I wanted to be competitive. Like, this isn't a bucket list item to me. Like, if I'm going to do this shit, I'm going to do this shit. Now let's talk about federations and the divisions that there are and how I decided that I was going to be in wellness. So there are a bunch of different federations. So when you hear people talk about NPC, I'm in my NPC wellness prep. That is the amateur league, right? The amateur league that goes into the IFBB. So when you hear about the Chris Bumsteads of the world, the Laura Lee Chapados of the world, you hear about the Olympia, that's the IFBB. In order to become a pro in the IFBB, you have to first compete in the NPC. I'm only going to talk about NPC and IFBB because that's what I'm competing in. There are other federations that you can look into, but I'm just going to talk about what I know about. So how it works is you're going to first start with a regional level show. So that's going to be a local show. That's my first show. So December 3rd is going to be a regional show. At a regional show, you have to, I believe it's top 5 in your height class. So for me, it's like broken down by height classes. I'm class C or D, depending on how many classes there are. It's going to go by height. So the short girls are going to be class A, class B, class C, class D, like that. And so you have to get top 5 in your height class to qualify for a national show. At a national show, that's when you can get a pro card. When you hear people saying like road to pro, they want their pro card, that's what that is. So at a national show, depending on which national show it is, I think there's like, 6 national shows a year? Something like that. There's regional shows happen every fucking weekend. It's not hard to find a regional show. Like, I could probably go somewhere right now and do it if I wanted to. National shows, there's not as many. So at a national show, it just depends on the show, but either your top 1 or 2 from each class is gonna get their pro card. Once you get your pro card, you are not in the NPC anymore, you're in the IFBB. That is the professional league, and then you're competing against the pros. Once you're in the pro league, there ain't no height classes, weight classes, and none of that shit. You're just in that bitch, and you're next to everyone, right? So everyone's goal is always like, get the pro card, get the pro card. My biggest piece of advice that I ever received was stop chasing the pro card and chase the pro physique. Do things that pros do, and the pro physique will come to you. So many people are like, I want a pro card, whatever. But they don't even, like, do you act like a pro? Ask yourself that. Are you acting like a pro? Okay, let's talk about divisions now. So women's divisions in the NPC go like this. I'm gonna talk about them smallest muscularity to most muscularity wise, so like smallest, biggest, right? Bikini is the most naturally attainable division, and honestly the division that most people should be in when they start, right? Bikini is balanced from head to toe, so keep that in mind. I'll put in a photo of Miss Olympia. Basically, if you guys want to know what the standards for each division are, search IFBB Bikini Miss Olympia 2022. IFBB Miss Wellness Olympia 2020 or 2021. Like, just search that, because whoever wins the Olympia, they are like the standard for the division, right? You can also go to NPC News online and you can see all the rules and regulations for each division as well. So bikini is the smallest. Then we move into wellness. Wellness is newer to the US. It has been in other countries for years and years. Basically what wellness is, it is the only women's division that is unbalanced. So in bikini, you want your upper body and your lower body to be balanced, right? You want that symmetry. Wellness, you want your lower body to be much larger than your upper. So that's why I train legs as much as I do. So you're not necessarily like judged harshly on your upper body. Like, they want a developed upper body. But for instance, when I hit my back pose, I don't have to move my hair to show my back. My hair covers my back. Obviously, I still train back because I got to train back. But then we move into figure and fitness. They're kind of in like the same realm. Figure, bigger emphasis on your upper body. In figure, you will move your hair from the back, right? A big emphasis on your back. Huge emphasis on your back in figure. Figure is all about overall symmetry and overall balance. Figure, however, I'm going to be very honest with you. A lot of people tell me, like, well, why won't you do figure? Like, you can do figure. I'm a shrimp compared to figure competitors. I don't think you understand how big those girls are. You guys know Alex. It's Quadzilla. If you guys follow me, I'll put her page right here. She does figure in women's physique, and I think she's gonna be at the Olympia, and I want to like meet up with her so we can like take videos together so y'all can see how small I am compared to her, because I think you guys think I'm like a lot bigger than I am. Anyways, so that's figure. Fitness is the next one. It's not as popular. It's like the dance division, like gymnastics. So what they have to do, it's really interesting. So they come out and they do their posing routine. It's very similar to figure. But then they also have like a gymnastics routine that they have to perform, where they have like costumes and there's music and it's all theatrical and they're flipping and shit. It's honestly dope. But obviously you need to have a background in that to be able to do fitness. So if you're a gymnast, like an ex-gymnast maybe. Now, how did I know I was wellness? So if you know anything about the divisions and you just look at me, I am wellness. Like, when I went to Kerrigan, I told her, like, I'm contemplating between figure and wellness. Like, I don't really know what is best for me. She didn't even talk to me about it. I got the program and it said, program target, wellness division. I was like, all right, bet. And then a couple months later, I'm on like my Instagram stories and somebody asked me how I decided that, and I was telling that story. And Kerrigan DMs me and she's like, wait, I never even talked to you about it? I was like, no, like, you literally just put it on the program. I'm not mad about it because like I wanted to be wellness. Like, if I like, out of the two of them, I would have rather have been wellness. And she was like, oh, you were just so obviously wellness, I didn't even think of it. Like, it wasn't even a question to me. My natural structure is very wellness, right? Some people can go either way, right? I can't go in bikini because my legs are too big. Like, my quads are too big for bikini. It's just not an option. However, if you don't know what you're doing, you're like, what should I do? Get a coach. Number one advice, get a fucking coach as soon as you can. Your coach is gonna be able to tell you. You can do a cut, see where you lean out. Because what happens a lot with wellness, you guys, is so many women are like, oh, I'm wellness, right? There's a difference between holding fat in your legs and holding muscle there. I cannot tell you the amount of times I have seen girls who are like, I'm doing wellness. They do a cut and then they're like, just fucking kidding. I do not have the muscle that I thought I did. Because when you are lean and you have to have that much size, y'all, it's a different ballgame. Like, when I get comments that are like, well, you're already so big. You guys, I am a shrimp in the wellness world. Like, a shrimp. Tiny, small, nothing, okay? Okay, enough about me. We're gonna go through my checklist for how to get started, how to know if you're ready, and how to know if you should or should not compete in a bodybuilding show. I'm going to be pretty blunt and transparent with y'all, just because I feel like there's so much bullshit about competing on TikTok and on the internet that people have this false sense of what it takes to compete. So I'm gonna be pretty point blank about this. I'm sorry, but I just feel like people need to know, because I wish somebody would have told me this shit. And I see people compete all of the time and it ruins them because they weren't ready and they weren't in a position to be competing in the first place. So just disclaimer. Let's start here. How long have you been consistently training and consistently following like a diet, meal plan, tracking your macros? If you have never successfully completed a cut, or you do not know how to eat, you don't know how to consistently train, it is not your time. My biggest piece of advice, I keep on saying that like every 30 seconds, my biggest piece of advice, you need to just live the bodybuilding lifestyle before you want to compete. Your first prep should not be the first time you go through a cut. Like, your prep should not be a bucket list item, like, oh, like, let me just lose some weight. Like, if you want to prep just because you want to lose weight, this shit ain't for you. That's why I tell y'all, like, do not just do what I'm doing because you want to lean out. No, this is intense. It's not sustainable. And honestly, it's not healthy at a point. So you got to keep that shit in mind. So live the bodybuilding lifestyle first and foremost. Like, if just learn how to train, be in that routine. Like, if gym is not life right now and tracking macros and that shit is not life, make it life, because it's gonna be. Bodybuilding is not just in the prep. Like, people look at bodybuilding and they're like, oh my God, like prep is the hard part, right? You're like, oh, you have to diet down, do all this cardio. No, bodybuilding is a year-round sport, and if you're not willing to commit to that, this shit ain't for you. Other questions that you need to ask yourself: are you financially ready? This shit is expensive. It's just an expensive hobby. When you're an amateur, you don't get paid for shit. If you win a show, maybe you win like a Wolfpack backpack and like a photo shoot or something, but you're not winning money. You're literally just like wasting, like, if you don't love this shit, don't do it, because it's an expensive ass hobby, okay? Just putting that out there. If you're willing to sacrifice time with your family, friends, social events, if you are not okay, like my prep, for instance, is 19 weeks long. It sounds like absolute fucking hell that you can't go to eat once, or you can't go to have drinks with your friends for 19 weeks, and that's really gonna put a damper in your life. This shit is not for you. And are you prepared to get this shit done, whether you are tired, exhausted, you feel like shit, I don't fucking know what happened, your grandma kicked you in the face? Are you still willing to get that cardio done? I think the biggest misconception, okay, not the biggest misconception, but especially during my prep, I've noticed questions like this, like, how do you have the energy to when your carbs are low? How do you have the to? I don't. The answer is it just gets done. Like, prep is not a, oh, do I feel good? Do I want to do it? Like, do I have the energy to do it? No, it's a mind over matter. Get it the fuck done. That's it. Like, it's mind over matter at a point. Like, prep has nothing to do about motivation. Honestly, discipline ain't even the word either. It's just straight drive and willpower. You also need to look at your relationship with food. If you are still getting over an eating disorder, you still constantly binge, like I said, if you've not been able to consistently hit a diet, this shit is not for you. Prep is not the time to fix your relationship with food, because what a prep is going to do is amplify every bad relationship habit you have. It's not going to make it better. Keep that in mind if you want to compete too. Let's talk about coaches. What makes a good coach, bad coach, how to find a coach, when you should get a coach. So like I said earlier, the second you even think, should I get a coach? Get a coach. I'm telling you, the best part about having a coach is you don't have to think. So when you guys ask me questions like, oh, when do I change my macros? How much cardio do I do? What should I do this? You don't have to think about any of that shit. Your coach just gives you the plan. Your only job as an athlete is to execute said plan. You literally pay them so that you're not stressed and you don't have to think about shit. Like, it's honestly lit. Now, something I want to talk about is like good coaches and bad coaches, because I feel like TikTok has made people think that it's that black and white, and that there are good coaches, bad coaches. Here are the red flags, here are the green flags. And that's just not how it works. It's more so like, who is a good coach for you? Who do you vibe with? Like, y'all know I love Kerrigan. Is she the best coach for you? Bitch, I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. You need to figure out what works for you, and honestly, for most people, that's just gonna come with trial and error. What I will say is, do not feel like you need to find a coach that lives in your hometown, all right? There are personal trainers and there are coaches. If you want a personal trainer, you can get that. But a good coach should be able to do their job from anywhere in the world. It's 2022. You can FaceTime them. You can send videos. You can send pictures. You can send voice memos. Like, my coach lives in Houston. I live in Chicago, and it's not difficult at all. Like, I'm telling you. And honestly, like, the best coach for you, there's a good chance they don't live by you. Finding coaches. So I get this question all of the time, like, how do you find a coach? I will say, like, when it comes to like green and red flags, to me, it's a red flag if a coach, the only way that they know how to market their coaching services is by talking shit about other coaches. You know what I'm talking about? Like, red flags and coaches. Like, if that is your only like selling point, what? Like, that's a red flag to me, is when you're constantly talking about red flags, in my opinion. Like I said, it's more about what you need and making sure communication is clear. What I will say though is a green flag to me, I personally want a coach and not a cheerleader. Like, you have to ask yourself, do you want to pay somebody every week to tell you good job, or to somebody who's gonna get your shit done? You got to think about that. You got to think about your coaching style, what you like. You might not work with like that way. I do. Like, I grew up as an athlete, so it's just like that kind of like harsh, tough love is like what I need, but it just kind of depends what you want. Okay, let's talk about this. What credentials should you look for? This is where my hot take comes in. It's 2022. We live in a world where if you don't have a fucking PhD, you should not be working, right? Here's the thing, you guys, is all the time I'm like, I get questions that are like, oh, like, what are your credentials? What are Kerrigan's credentials? Like, whatever, right? you don't go to school to learn how to be a bodybuilding coach. Like, I know some of the smartest coaches I know have a high school diploma and nothing else, and some of the dumbest coaches I know have a PhD. Like, you can't go to school to learn how to be a bodybuilding coach. It is learned. So what you need to do is you need to find their clients and look at their fucking results. Like, if they don't have results to show you, you can also find some of their clients, DM them, ask them about their experience. People DM me all the time about Kerrigan, all the time. But yes, like, should they have furthered their education at some point? Yes, but I think we live in a world where people are like, well, I can't hire them because they don't have this, this, and this. Whereas, like, you need to look at people's experience. It's not just about what school you went to and what degree you have, because let's be real here, not anyone, but like, a lot of people are just not smart people with pieces of paper. Let's talk about lifestyle versus competition coaching too. A lot of people are kind of scared to go to a coach and say they want to bodybuild, right? When I went to Kerrigan, I started as like an off-season / lifestyle client. Lifestyle just means you're not competing, you just have some kind of fitness goal, right? For some people, starting as a lifestyle client can be helpful because you're learning to live that lifestyle, and the more you do it, you kind of fall in love with it, if we're being real. And then you're like, okay, let me compete. Like, it happens a lot where lifestyle clients turn into competitors. Yeah, so that's like lifestyle competition. And then average prices. So that is going to vary a lot depending on what you get and the coach themselves. Like, a coach that, like Matt Jansen, that man can charge whatever he wants. And if you're watching this video, you probably don't even know who he is. He's a very, 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 very well-known Olympian coach. It's like, if you're someone like that, like, nobody cares. Like, nobody cares what you charge. You can charge whatever the fuck you want. I'm going to say average right now, $300 to $500 is industry standard for competition. I'm going to say 2 to 4. This is monthly for lifestyle. Obviously, it varies depending on what is included. Everyone's different, right? And if you think that's expensive, I want you to sit down and think about why you think $300 a month to give to somebody who has your long-term health in your hands, why you think that's expensive. Because what I always tell people when they're like, oh my God, $200 a month, like, that's crazy. You need to consider this. This is someone's full-time career, right? If they are giving you something of value, they're gonna charge you what that value is worth, right? I don't wanna work with a coach that charges $100 a month, because what does that tell me? The value is decreased. I don't want that. Hell no. Especially when you're dealing with my long-term health. No. Count me out of that shit. When it comes to coaching, you get what you pay for, and if you are going to skimp on anything in your competition journey, do not let it be your coach. Like, do not think you can self-coach yourself. Stop right there. Because I get that question a lot too, because I'm a coach, right? I don't coach competitors, I coach just lifestyle clients, but people are like, well, if you're a coach, like, why do you have a coach? Bodybuilding, I need you to realize this. So, bodybuilding, you are looking at your body every single day. We all got body dysmorphia, babe. All of us do. There is no way in hell, or for most people, there are a select few people, usually pros, that are able to coach themselves, but it does not happen often. Like, most top pros are gonna have a coach. Because you have to think about it this way. When you are depleted, you're eating 1,100 calories a day, 2 hours of cardio a day, right? And you're fucking starving, and your weight goes down a little bit one day. You're like, oh, I want to give myself a refeed, right? You're not going to be able to make changes, like, logically. Where, like, as when I send my coach my check-ins, she can do that for me, right? Like, I'm not able to look at my physique right now and make logical changes that I would probably give another person, because it's going to be all emotionally charged at a point. I'm losing natural light, you guys. I'm losing it. Okay, I think this is better, but let's break down the cost of competing. Because y'all, this shit's fucking expensive, and you need to know that before you get into this shit. Honestly, if you're gonna do a prep, you need a budget, I'd say $3K. If, like, that's on the smaller side. You can, like, work around some things, like buy jewelry from Amazon, do your own hair and makeup, do shit like that. You can rent a suit. But when we talk about costs, you have your bodybuilding coach. That's going to be like anywhere from like $250 to $5 a month, $550 a month, just depending on who. That it's a big range, so that's going to depend, right? So you have that. You have your gym membership. You have the food that you have to buy, right? You have the supplements you have to buy. You have your NPC card to, like, be able to compete in the NPC in your federation. There's a fee there. You have registration costs for your shows. You have your suit. Bikini suits for women, that shit's expensive. All those bedazzled little stones, your suit can be upwards of like $900 to $1,000. You have your heels, you have the jewelry, you have hair and makeup, posing sessions, I say supplements, tanning. Everyone has to get that dark ass tan. Y'all see, the reason they do it is because when you're under, like, bright stage lights, you need to be able to see the definition, right? So even if you're super dark in skin tone, you have to get the tan. And then if you have to travel for a national shows are freaking expensive, like expensive. And you have hotel, you have travel, you have flight if you have to, like whatever that is, right? It gets expensive, you guys. Like this is not, like this shit ain't cheap, right? And I get questions, especially from girls who are in college and shit. They're like, I want to like compete, but like I just can't afford to right now. Like what should I do? And I will always say, take the time to grow. Because if you can't afford it right now, that's fine. Like I couldn't have afforded this shit in college. Honestly, I couldn't have afforded this shit 2 years ago. When it comes to bodybuilding, rushing to get on stage is not going to help you. And that's why, like, when I share my journey of working with Kerrigan beforehand, I hope you look at my photos of when I first saw Kerrigan and you're like, holy shit, she started this prep as a completely different person. You want to take the time to grow. The people that are successful in this sport, like even when you see people who win their pro card their first time, it's not because they started training when prep started, y'all. They've been doing this shit for years. Take the time to grow, because when you take the time to grow, you're going to be so much happier with your cut, I promise you. So if you are like, I can't do this right now, you don't have to rush to get on stage, especially if you're young. I was just talking to, actually, there's a new hire at my gym. He's a 19-year-old kid, and he's talking about competing. I said, do not even think about competing until you're like 22. Like, just grow, because all you're gonna do is regret it, because you're gonna get lean, realize you don't have the muscle you thought you have, and be pissed. So just take the time to grow, all right? But yeah, basically this shit's expensive, so be prepared for that. And if your first thought is like, oh, do I need a coach? Stop, just stop in your tracks right there, babe. Like I said, so like on a budget, what you can do is, a lot of coaches, they'll do like payment plans. You can do that too. Like it's never like, you don't have to always do it like all up front, right? That hair and makeup you can do on your own. Nails you can do on your own. Jewelry you can get for cheap. You can rent a suit. Heels, you can get them from somebody. Like heels are not that expensive, but you know, like you can find ways around it, like if you need to. Okay, now I'm just gonna go through and like rapid fire a bunch of questions, because I asked you guys just like whatever questions you had about how I got into competing, how y'all should start competing, like whatever. Advice for girls wanting to get into bodybuilding but afraid of people's judgments and opinions. I'm gonna be straight up with you. If you're afraid of being judged, bodybuilding ain't for you, babe, because number one, you are fully being judged on your physique. Here's the thing, you guys, like I get these questions all the time. Are you really just gonna live your life and not do the shit that you don't wanna do because what? Oh, people might think you're weird? Like, bitch, come on. Like, sit down with yourself. Like, do you wanna live a life where you do shit you wanna do, or where you live a life for other people? Like, ask yourself that question. When did you know it was time to get a coach? I knew it was time to get a coach when I knew I needed an extra sense of accountability, because I like knew how to lose weight. Like I knew how to track macros. Like I knew all the things. I'd followed bodybuilding like for a while at that point. I just knew that a coach was gonna bring me to my next level. Like whatever that next level was, a coach was gonna do that for me. How much money you saved from not eating out? See, questions like these, like when people are like, oh my God, bodybuilding is so expensive. Like, because people are like, how much you spend in groceries? Even if I spend $150 in groceries a week, like I'm not going out to eat ever. So like to me, it's not like that bad. Because I feel like regular people, it's like, oh, like you don't buy as many groceries because you're like, oh, I might go to this dinner, I'm gonna buy this, like whatever. It's like, I only make my meals at home. So it's not that bad. Okay, I didn't think I answered this earlier. How to find a coach. I get this question all of the time. And what you need to do, go on Instagram, start following bodybuilders. Every fucking bodybuilder is a coach, I'm telling you. Or like, if you're in this world and you follow bodybuilders on Instagram, you're gonna be like, it's not hard to find a coach. Like, they're fucking everywhere. If you Google how to find a bodybuilding coach near me, you're gonna struggle, right? But if you like pretty much only follow like influencers and like balance girlies, you're probably not gonna find a lot of competition coaches. Start following pros, like start there. I'm always gonna recommend Hustle Harder. It's changed my fucking life. Kerrigan and Brandon are fantastic. My friend Kayla Ashworth, she's an incredible coach. My friend Ian Powell, so my friend earlier was talking about her boyfriend, he's a coach. I'll put their like contact shit down in the bio, whatever we call that. How do you cope on days that you don't want to eat the same meals? I'm gonna be straight up with you, bodybuilding's not for you. Like, if you are not okay with eating similar meals every day, and I mean like you can switch up your protein sources, like you have ground turkey instead of ground chicken, right? You can add a sauce to it. But if eating pretty basic like that, it sounds like your personal hell, this shit ain't for you. How did you manage to stay motivated or consistent with balancing work, life, etc.? So if I'm gonna be honest with you, like there's no balancing. Like if you wanna be really fucking good at something, there's just, balance is not gonna exist for you, and I wanna be really fucking good at this. I will say what has helped me the most is a lot of people will like only stay with their coach during a prep, and during off season they'll do it on their own. I literally have to be with Kerrigan year round, otherwise I will not listen to her. And it's just something about like, okay, you want to go off track, but it's like, maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. And then I'm like, oh, do I want to have to tell my coach this when I check in with her on Tuesday? No, like it helps you keep accountable. But honestly, it's just, bodybuilding is a long game. If you are not patient and you want this to happen for you in 2 years, this shit is not for you. You need to understand when it comes to bodybuilding, like it is really your efforts day in and day out that are going to make the bigger picture. Did you choose wellness or did wellness choose you? Wellness chose me. This girl goes, I'm sorry it's broad, but I work out, weight training, and all that, but like, how do I actually start? Get a coach. Get a coach. A coach is going to answer 98% of the questions you have right now, I promise. Were you already fit when you first started? I will say at that point in my journey, I was everyone's like fit friend. Like competing was kind of like my bringing this shit to the next level kind of thing for me. Okay, I get this question all the time too. How do you choose between bodybuilding and powerlifting? And I get it because like those are like the two sports you see, but they're so different. Like it wasn't even like should I powerlift or should I bodybuild? Like I just am a fan of bodybuilding. I think a lot of people are confused by that because they're like, well, why would you want to get on stage and get judged on your physique? Like I like bodybuilding. Like even if I didn't compete, I would still follow the shows. I would still be following the pros. Like I like this shit. Powerlifting, I don't really think I would enjoy the training style, and to be honest, I really just like squatting. Like I don't really care about benching. I don't love deadlifting like the rest of the world does, so like never say never, but like right now, no. Did your family give you any shit? I got a lot of questions about family. So I'll be honest, I'm sure my family is like, what the fuck is this? But they're also like, I'm at a point in my life where obviously I live on my own, like I'm an adult, like whatever. I'm gonna do what I want. And my parents are just like, if it makes you happy, it makes you happy. I'm sure they're like deep down like, what the fuck? Like, what is this? Like when they come to my show, they're gonna be like, wait, what? You guys, like, it's the same way I look at anything. Like, are you really not gonna do the shit that you wanna do because your family thinks, oh, bodybuilding's gross? Like, come on, y'all. Like, if I can give you any advice, anything, like, my life right now is a complete representation of me not doing the things that people didn't, like, of me doing things that people didn't want me to do. Like, my life has only improved by doing the shit that I want to do. And I need y'all to feel the same feeling. Do you have a goal for after your shows, or is it dependent on feedback? Dependent on feedback, I know what the feedback's gonna be. It's gonna be my glutes. Glutes bigger. For me, it's just like overall size when it comes to going to a national stage. But we'll see what the judges have to say, and we'll go from there and then create a plan for 2023. Okay. Let's talk about it. PEDs, steroids, enhancements, all the things. So, it's a part of the sport. It just is. And PEDs are why bodybuilding is never going to be mainstream. Because every single sport uses PEDs. PEDs stand for performance enhancing drugs, right? Actors, like Hollywood uses PEDs all the time. Like what I always tell people is I'm like, do you really think that these actors and actresses are just losing 50 pounds from diet and exercise in a month? Like, do you really think that's how that happens? Okay, so what sparked this question was your decision to start taking steroids and what led to it. So it's not always steroids. PEDs, steroids are gonna go under there, but performance enhancing drugs, right? Taking the enhanced route. So when I started working with my coach, we had a conversation about it. I started working with her in January and March. She was just like, I want to have an open conversation with you. Like, I want to know, like, do you want to stay natural? Do you want to take the enhanced route? Just like, what are your thoughts on it? And at that point, I didn't think any of these wellness pros were on gear. Oh, I thought they were all natural. All of them. And so my body dysmorphia, I was like, bro, I'm never going to fucking look like that. Like, never. But finding out that all of them are, okay, when I say all, somebody's gonna be like, well, there's actually this one pro down in Brazil that's actually natural. Let's be real, y'all. Like, if we're gonna be honest here, this is why I have to make this video, is because I said before, bikini is the most naturally attainable division. Wellness, people are gonna hate me for this. If you wanna be competitive at a national level, if you wanna turn pro, the reality is if you don't have God tier genetics, it's just what it is. Because you need to understand that in the NPC and the IFBB, they are not tested. So you're gonna stand on stage with everyone next to you is gonna be on shit. So for me, it was like, let's even this fucking playing field. Like, I'm not just trying to do this to do this. Like, I wanna be competitive. And I had somebody ask me once, like, wouldn't you want to do like 3 or 4 national shows before like you take anything? And I'm like, why would I want to wait 3 or 4 national shows? We're talking $3,000 to $4,000 times 4, right? Like, we talked about how expensive national shows are just to decide I want to be competitive in like 4 shows. Like, no. I've done my research. By the time I decided I wanted to do it, I didn't start for like over a year later. So I was natural my entire journey up until the start of this prep. So at the end of July, when this prep started, is when I decided to take that route. It's a decision I made for myself. I really just don't need anybody else's opinion on it because I'm gonna do what I want with my body. You can do what you want. You need to understand though that PEDs, a lot of people are like, well, what are the effects? Under the category of PEDs are like a ton of things, like a ton of different compounds. So like when somebody's like, oh, like I'm on gear, you don't know shit. Like, because you don't know what they're on, how long they're on it, like, you don't know, like, the amount that they're on. You have to think about it. Like, okay, let's even just talk about ibuprofen. Like, I'm going to really dumb it down. 5 milligrams of ibuprofen and 300 milligrams of ibuprofen, those are going to do 2 very different things, right? I'm open about my choice to take the enhanced route. Honestly, it's just kind of like, I got to a point where I was like, you want to be a shark, you got to swim with the sharks. Like, that's just kind of what it was. However, I would have never done this if I didn't have a coach who knew what the fuck that they were doing. If your coach is not having you get blood work done multiple times a year, get a fucking new one. Like, If your coach does not know how to read blood work, if they do not think about life after stage, like, when you are a competitor and you are looking into taking an enhanced route, you need to make sure your coach knows what they're doing. Like, you just need to be so fucking confident that they know what the fuck is happening to you. Because this is not shit you want to play around with, okay? Because I see it time and time again where all these male coaches give their female clients what they would give their male clients. Y'all, no. But for me, I got to a point where I remember telling Kerrigan, I was like, I feel like in my head, I told myself, like, you have to do your first show naturally. Like, you just have to. But I was like, I don't want to. Like, I was like, I want to be competitive and like I want to take this shit as far as we can, not like drug wise, but like I want to be able to put all of me in. And PEDs are not a cheat code. You don't just randomly get jacked. Like, that shit does not work if you don't work. Okay, like, let's start there. You still have to put in the work. It's just another tool in your toolbox. But once again, I'm not promoting them. I'm open about the fact that I have taken an enhancement before. I will not share details, just in the way that I don't like to share my macros, because I don't want somebody to come to my page be like, oh, I want to compete in wellness, I'm going to take what she takes. Like, you guys, the amount of questions I got that were like, what should the first PED I take be? Y'all, I cannot tell you that information. I cannot tell you that. But I do think it is important for people to know how much of a standard it almost is in the industry. Like, you need to understand that if you are competing in the NPC and the IFBB and you are natural, you are going to be on stage with people that are not. You need to understand that. And if that makes you upset, you need to compete in a natural federation. Like, that's just is what it is. So a lot of questions about how to do this as this, how to do this as this, how to do this as a night nurse, how to do this while you're in school. The answer is, I don't care what you do, it just has to fucking happen. Like, there's no secret answer as to how you get your shit done when you bodybuild. There is not balance in your life, and you need to accept that. Like, you don't think that you can be a pro bodybuilder and also you're living your balanced lifestyle year round. Like, that's just not how this shit is gonna work for you. I'm sorry. The answer is, like, if you don't have the energy, you're not gonna have the energy. Like, when people are like, how do you have the energy to do this? I'm like, I wanna fucking kill you. Mm-hmm. Like, it doesn't matter what you do. The answer is just, it gets done. Like, it's not about how you feel about it. It's not about if you have the energy. It's not if you want to do it. It's just, if you want to accomplish this goal, you will do anything to get it done. Why I chose Kerrigan as an online coach versus someone you could see in person weekly? Because I don't need a personal trainer. Point blank. And also, like I said before, the best coach for you probably doesn't live by you. What ways do you maintain a healthy body image when bodybuilding? I got a lot of questions about this, or how you don't let like eating disorder behaviors come in. So I think where the misconception is with people that are like outside of bodybuilding that are kind of wanting to get into it is, it's like, even right now when I'm cutting, like, I'll get questions that are like, oh, like, do you like love your body right now? And I'm like, no. Like, as a bodybuilder, like, you're gonna have extreme body dysmorphia. It just is what it is, especially when you get that stage lean. Like, most people just never see themselves that lean, so you just have this perception of yourself that's just like ingrained in your head. But you have to do what you can do to detach yourself as a person from your physique. So it's like, when you know that your body goes through phases, you don't get too attached to it. So it's like, oh, I'm lean right now. But it's like, I know that's not forever. And it's like, I know I can do it again if I want. So it's not like a struggle, if that makes sense. So it's like, even like when I'm bulking, like I just know it's not forever. So it's just like, it's temporary. It is what it is. It's a phase of bodybuilding. Like, I don't know. I think a lot of people, like, it's hard to understand this when you've never lost the weight before. And like, that's all you want. You're like, oh my God, they're getting so lean. They're getting so lean. Like, when you do this shit, it's like, you just realize that, like, for the record, I too also want to stab myself for how many times I say like. There are phases to this shit. That's also like when I'm prepping and people are like, oh my God, you have so much discipline. Like, I cannot, like I have to eat this. It's not like I never get to have a burger again. Like, I just don't get to have it for 19 weeks. Like, I'm gonna be all right. Did you ever doubt your potential every fucking day of my life? Honestly, at this point in prep, like, most of me and Kerrigan's communication is just her being like, just stay in your own lane, be confident as hell, and like the physique you're bringing, and like just don't let other people's opinions and like just social media, especially since I'm in an interesting position because most people don't have such a large audience watching their first prep ever, right? And everyone's opinion about, oh, are you too lean? You're too this. You look like this. I hate this. You look like this, right? So it's, a lot of it has been mental for me. But 1000%. I remember when I went to my first bodybuilding show ever, that's the moment when I was like, okay, I think I can like maybe be good at this. Like I was like, I think I can do this. And Kerrigan was like, yeah, bitch, I've been trying to tell you. And even like the other day, so on my close friend story on Instagram, I posted my back pose and Kerrigan responded, she's like, why didn't you put this on like your main feed? And I was like, I don't know why I get so insecure about my back pose. And she told me, she's like, it's because you compare yourself to pros and not amateurs. It's a good thing. But she's like you'll get there, like type of thing. Because I literally don't look like, when I compare myself to people, I don't look at other competitors who are going to be competing in shows with me. I look at like Franciel. I look at Olympians because to me, the goal is to be that. So that's what I need to look like. But no, I am the queen of self-doubt. Okay, this is a good one. My man Pay, he's on all my lives. Genetically, what are your advantages and disadvantages? Genetically, okay, just in general for me, so as we know, it is a grind to cut me. Like when everyone's like, oh my God, how did you lean out so quickly? Quickly? Mm-hmm. I was eating nothing and doing almost 2 hours cardio a day. Mm-hmm. Oh shit, we got a new battery, 1 second. Okay, for a second there, I thought I did not record that entire clip, so that was irritating. But we're good. This is a good one. Would you say that bodybuilding has helped your self-image or made it worse? Helped 1,000,000%. Bodybuilding has made me a more accountable person. I stopped blaming the world for my problems. Like, everything that you learn in bodybuilding, like when it comes to dieting and shit, those habits, like the discipline, is going to transfer into other aspects of your life. Like, bodybuilding and fitness has done nothing but made me a better person. Okay, let's talk about body dysmorphia. I kind of have like a little bit of a hot take on this. For me, what's been the most helpful is just accepting it. I'm gonna be real with y'all. I'm gonna be on stage lean as shit, right? And I'm still gonna think I'm the fat friend. And that's just what it is. And it has been more helpful for me the past couple of years to just accept that's how my brain works than like trying, like getting mad that that's just how I am and like trying to fix it all the time. Like just kind of like sitting into the fact that like I'm always gonna have some sense of body dysmorphia has honestly been helpful. Cause it's just like, it is what it is. And like when you grow up as a fat kid, like it's just, those things stay with you forever, and it really does traumatize you for a very long time. And it's just, for me, it's just been easier to like, yes, that's a part of my past, but to just accept that's how my brain works sometimes. Dude, did you struggle to find people who relate to your goals? In college, 1000%. Like that's why having my friend Morgan was so nice. Now it's like when I get questions like, oh, like do you get lonely? No, literally I have so many bodybuilding friends. Like most of my friends that I met in Chicago, I met at the gym, like they bodybuild in some capacity or just like train. So like I never really feel alone, if I'm gonna be honest. Like, cause I even get questions that are like, do you feel like you're missing out? No, because I'm living the life I wanna live. Like the older you get, you're gonna realize like people just have their vices and they're just trying to escape the bullshit of the week, right? So when you go out every fucking weekend, you realize that people are just trying to get through life, right? This is how I get through life. Like I like doing this, I enjoy it. So to me, this isn't missing out, because you guys, let's be real. When you go out like every weekend, you realize like, okay, I wasn't missing out on shit. Cause it's the same thing every goddamn weekend. Did you start going to the gym by yourself or with friends? By myself. If you are depending on somebody else to go to the gym, this shit is not going to be easy for you. I see it I see it time and time again. When people start, there's always one gym partner that's super into it, and one person that's just there for the social aspect, and one of them ends up bringing the other down, and then I'll get a DM that's like, I feel like my gym partner is like making me regress. Yeah, like you just don't depend on other people for your goals, yo. Anything that flipped the switch to make you hungry to win. When I went to my first show and I realized, like, because I'm always like just doubtful. I'm like, oh, like I'm too small, I don't have this. When I went to my first show, I was like, I think I can be good at this. Like, I was like, shit. Like, that was the first time that I was like, okay, like I think I got something here. Do you feel you need a coach? I feel that, in my opinion, everyone should have a coach. A coach is going to do nothing but help you. I literally, Kerrigan would have to fire me before I ever leave her. Like, no. She's going to have to stop coaching if she wants to leave me, because no. Okay. This is a big repeat question too. When did you feel like you were big enough? You're never going to feel like you're big enough. I still am not big enough. Don't feel like I'm big enough. Just get a coach. Like, y'all, I'm telling you, the answer to 90% of these questions are get a coach. It's going to answer all of your questions. Okay, so those are all the questions. I tried to like plan this video out. I know it was kind of a ramble, but I tried to plan it out a little bit. I hope it was helpful and that you learned something. If you have any other questions about competing, leave them in the comments and I'll try to respond to you guys when I get this up. But yeah, so 5 weeks out tomorrow. Well, by the time you see this, I'm already 5 weeks out. So, all right. Thanks for watching, y'all. I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Make sure you subscribe, bitch. Half of y'all watch my videos are not subscribed. I will find you. All right. Mwah. Bye.
Who you a fool for this? I walk like I talk like I act like I look like I think like my shit don't stink. I fuck like I suck like I ride like I taste like I look like my shit don't stink. I walk like I